What do you see in the future for like these Arab countries aligning with Israel, and then Iran and its new capabilities that are non-nuclear, the new administration coming in, trying to get some sort of deal together, the sanctions, all of this stuff
Hmm.
coming together. What is the future of Iran, and what's the future of the Middle East?
Okay, you're asking me. There's too many moving factors for anybody to have a I could tell you anybody coming up with a certain prediction for any of this, they're talking out of their ass. Okay, there's just way too many factors at play, and we have seen how things can change overnight. And like if you have a prediction, if I don't know, tomorrow there might be an uprising in Tehran, and also one thing that makes this all very difficult, Ali. I don't know. We're not going to have time to go into this right now. Khamenei's succession is being discussed in Iran, and when it comes to the internal politics in Iran, when we're talking about the people versus the reformists versus the hardliners, right? And it's mostly the people versus the government, but there's also some competition between the reformers and hardliners in Iran. But now the new dynamics at play is that the fight between the hardliners and the hardliners, right? There's actually some internal competition when it comes to what's going to happen after Khamenei's death, especially because of some recent health concerns, which I don't know if it's true or not. Probably not. I don't know. There's no way to know. But just that just being discussed brought a lot of attention to the fact that there is some internal civil war happening, not between the reformers and the hardliners, but between the hardliners themselves, right? So what's going to happen with Khamenei, and because it seems like he wants to put his son in power. That's what it seems like, right? And a lot of people are like, what the hell? No. Even the hardliners are, what the hell? No. And also Khamenei's response to this whole deal, because Khamenei had this whole we're strong, we don't need the sanctions to be removed kind of attitude for a long time. And now he's coming out and he says we have to do whatever we can to get rid of the sanctions. So a lot of his supporters are like, what the hell is with this new tone, right? So there are some signs of division there. And because most of this fight between the hardliners is happening behind, like very secretly, it's just sometimes, very few times we get a glimpse behind the curtain about what's happening there, and we don't get much information when something does leak. But there's a lot happening in the background that we don't get to see, and it really depends on what the outcome of all of this is. Like, this is the future. The future of Iran mostly depends on what happens after Khamenei dies and what happens to oil prices, right? And none of this is that. I mean, the oil prices, I hope the oil prices are going to plummet, but when they're going to plummet, I mean, they already plummeted, but you're going to plummet even more. But when that's going to happen, I don't know. I don't think anybody could predict accurately, but it really depends on that. I did want to mention a few things. So when it comes to Fakhrizadeh, one thing that came out that most people didn't pay attention to, other than his killing, was the tapes that came out about his speeches about how the plan was for Fakhrizadeh to put nukes on missiles, right? Because this should have been a much bigger news, right? Because for a long time, the understanding was like, do we even know Iran has a nuclear weapons program? Right? We were like, the claim was, no, the nuclear energy was just for medicine, for energy, for research. But and this whole United States and Israel claiming that they have evidence that no, they do have a nuclear weapons program. This is not just about energy. This is about warfare. That was dealt with a lot of skepticism, and now, like, that was a huge discussion over these deals. People were like, well, countries like Iran should have the right to have nuclear energy, maybe not nuclear weapons, but nuclear energy. Why are we denying them that? And people were like, dude, guys, they actually want nuclear weapon. Apparently that information was always there, and it was available to Bush, it was available to Israel, and apparently they had these tapes for a very long time. I forgot the year they had it, but it was the Israeli intelligence actually played it for Bush. So they knew that this is a real threat from from the beginning. This should have been, when this came out that they had access to this evidence, this should have been major news, but nobody really talked about it. And last point that I want to mention is about the reaction to the killing of Fakhrizadeh by Iran. The only pathetic response they had was to pass a law that they're going to bring back enriching uranium without getting rid of all the monitors or the people that are there to watch what they're doing. But it was so obvious the way they passed that law that it was a way that they could undo it very fast, right? And that signaling of this is not a done deal, that signal of you have time to fix this and this doesn't have to go through, was so obvious to everybody that was looking at it, that Iran is acting like they're tough, but there's not much behind it. That they were signaling to the United States oh, we're just this is just us acting tough for our internal audience. This doesn't have to happen. And probably won't happen because we'd be tired of these sanctions.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.